Just 1 minute ago, the British Supreme Court dropped a bombshell that could shake the entire country. On general election day, voters and politicians alike are facing a moment of uncertainty as the nation waits to see how this ruling will change everything. This is not just another legal decision. It's a move that could directly affect higher vote counts and who could ultimately lead the UK. Stay with us, because the implications are massive, immediate, and unfolding right now. The British Supreme Court, known as the highest legal authority in the country, has just issued a ruling that has stunned political analysts and citizens alike. This decision, announced just minutes ago, comes at the heart of General Election Day, a day when the entire nation is focused on casting their votes and deciding the future of the UK government. While the court rarely intervenes directly in the electoral process, this time its judgment has created a situation that could influence not only the immediate vote count, but also the legal and procedural framework around the election itself. Inside the Supreme Court building, judges deliberated on a case that has been closely watched for months. The case, which involves critical electoral procedures, questioned whether certain voting practices, candidate eligibility rules, or ballot handling processes align with the law. The final ruling, delivered today, is the culmination of weeks of legal arguments and evidence presented by multiple parties, including political groups, watchdog organizations, and concerned citizens. The decision is written in clear terms, emphasizing the court's role in ensuring fairness and legality, but the practical impact on general election day is still being analyzed. Across the UK, political parties and campaign teams reacted almost instantly to the announcement. Social media platforms exploded with commentary, speculation, and even confusion as ordinary voters tried to understand how this ruling might affect their ability to vote or the validity of the results. Some leaders have called emergency meetings to reassess their strategies, while legal experts are issuing statements interpreting the implications of the Supreme Court's decision. The news is spreading quickly, and every hour that passes brings more analysis, more reactions, and more uncertainty. For the average voter, this announcement raises immediate questions. Will there be changes in how votes are counted? Could some ballots be invalidated? Are certain regions or candidates affected differently? The Supreme Court statement suggests that the intention is not to disrupt the democratic process, but to clarify the rules under which the election must be conducted. However, in practice, any change, no matter how small, on the day of the election can create confusion, delay results, or shift the balance in tight races. As people line up to vote or track the results, every eye is now on the court and the election authorities, watching to see how the ruling will unfold in real time. This is a moment of high tension. On one side, you have voters eager to make their voices heard. On the other, political leaders working frantically to adapt. The Supreme Court has reminded the nation that the law must be followed, even under extraordinary circumstances. Yet, the timing of the announcement, just as polls are open and ballots are being counted, has created a ripple effect that is felt across cities, towns, and rural areas alike. Analysts warn that the next few hours will be critical in determining how this decision affects the trajectory of the election and, by extension, the leadership of the UK. Just 1 minute ago, the British Supreme Court dropped a bombshell that could shake the entire country. On general election day, voters and politicians alike are facing a moment of uncertainty as the nation waits to see how this ruling will change everything. This is not just another legal decision. It's a move that could directly affect higher vote counts and who could ultimately lead the UK. Stay with us, because the implications are massive, immediate, and unfolding right now. To understand the weight of this ruling, we need to look at the bigger picture. The British Supreme Court doesn't step into political matters lightly. It exists to make sure that the law is applied fairly and that the actions of government, institutions, and officials follow the rules. When the court intervenes on the day of a general election, it is extremely rare. That's why today's announcement has immediately grabbed national and international attention. Citizens across the UK are now asking the same question: how will this affect the vote I just cast, or the outcome of the election I'm watching unfold? The ruling addresses key procedures that guide the election process. While the court's language is technical, the main takeaway is that certain actions previously thought to be allowed may need to be reviewed or corrected to align with the law. This can involve anything from the way ballots are processed to the eligibility of certain candidates or even the timing of votes in particular regions. Legal experts say that these clarifications are meant to prevent unfair advantages and maintain the integrity of the election. However, the timing of the announcement, right as polls are open and votes are being cast, means that everyone from election officials to everyday voters must now adjust quickly. Political analysts are warning that even a small shift caused by this ruling can have big consequences. In close races, a change in vote counting procedures or candidate eligibility could tilt results in unexpected ways. Campaign teams across the country are reportedly scrambling to assess the impact. Some are issuing statements to reassure their supporters, while others are seeking legal guidance to understand what comes next. Ordinary voters are left with questions too. Will my vote count the same way? Could there be delays in reporting results? These are legitimate concerns, and they highlight how intertwined the legal system and democracy are in the UK. At the same time, social media is buzzing with reactions from politicians, experts, and citizens. Some are praising the court for stepping in to ensure fairness. Others are expressing concern about the disruption the ruling could cause on Election Day. News channels and online outlets are racing to provide updates, breaking down the legal jargon into simple explanations that the public can understand. Headlines are popping up everywhere. Supreme Court intervention on Election Day. Ruling could affect tight races. Voters urged to stay calm. The sense of urgency is palpable. Finally, it's important to note that the Supreme Court's role is not to choose winners or losers. Its job is to clarify the rules and ensure the election follows the law. But in practice, when a ruling comes down on the very day votes are being cast and counted, its impact is immediate and dramatic. For citizens, this is a reminder that democracy is not just about casting a vote. It's also about the institutions that uphold fairness, transparency, and legality. Today, those institutions are in the spotlight, and the eyes of the world are watching how the UK navigates this high-stakes moment. Minutes ago, the British Supreme Court made its ruling public, and the details are sending shockwaves through the nation. While the full legal text is long and technical, the headline is simple. The court has clarified critical election procedures that could directly affect votes, ballots, and candidate eligibility. Officials are now racing to interpret the decision and make sure that the election proceeds in full compliance with the law. For voters, this is a moment to stay calm, but pay attention, because even small changes could influence the way results are counted in key areas. According to the announcement, the court focused on several key points. First, it examined whether certain ballots meet the legal requirements to be counted. Some ballots that were previously considered valid may now need extra verification, while others that were rejected might be reviewed. Second, the court looked at candidate eligibility rules, ensuring that every person standing for election is following the exact requirements set by law. Finally, the ruling addressed procedural elements, such as how votes are verified and counted across regions. The goal, according to the court, is to guarantee a fair and transparent process for every voter and candidate. Political leaders reacted instantly. Some are calling the ruling a necessary step to protect the integrity of democracy, while others are warning that the timing is disruptive, especially on a day when millions are casting their votes. Campaign teams in close-race constituencies are now reviewing their strategies, checking ballots, and coordinating with election officials to understand the practical impact. Legal analysts are appearing on news channels to break down the ruling in plain English, helping citizens understand what this means for the election outcome and what steps election officials must now take to comply with the law. For everyday voters, the message is clear. Don't panic, but stay informed. The Supreme Court's ruling is not about canceling votes or stopping the election. It is about making sure that the process is legal and fair. In some areas, this could mean additional verification steps before votes are counted or updates on which ballots are valid. While this may cause delays in reporting results, it is designed to ensure that every vote counts as it should. Observers note that this is especially critical in tight races, where a small change in ballot verification or candidate eligibility could change the outcome. The implications are immediate. Election authorities are already issuing new instructions to polling stations and ballot counting centers. Social media is filled with reactions from voters trying to understand how the ruling affects them, while politicians are carefully crafting statements to reassure the public and maintain confidence in the election process. Experts warn that the next few hours are crucial as election staff adapt to the court's instructions and work to ensure that the vote counting remains accurate and lawful. The nation is now watching closely. The Supreme Court has spoken, but the real test is in how this ruling is implemented across the country today. This section makes the court ruling tangible for viewers, explains the immediate consequences, and builds suspense for how the election may unfold. Next, Section 4 can cover the implications for election results, voter reactions, and the closing call to action, which will wrap up the story for your 1-minute faceless video. Do you want me to move on to Section 4 now? The Supreme Court's ruling is already sending ripples across the United Kingdom, and the effects are being felt everywhere, from busy city polling stations to small towns in rural areas. Voters who are lining up or had already cast their ballots are now watching closely to see how the announcement might affect the counting process. While election officials insist that the vote will proceed fairly, the added legal clarity means there could be delays in reporting results. In constituencies where races are tight, every vote and every ballot is now under careful scrutiny to make sure it meets the legal standards set by the court. Political parties are reacting in real time. Some leaders have described the ruling as a necessary safeguard for democracy, while others are warning supporters about possible complications that could affect close contests. Campaign offices are working overtime, reviewing their votes and communicating with local election authorities to ensure compliance. Meanwhile, analysts on news channels are breaking down exactly what this ruling means for the potential outcome of the election. The uncertainty has created a tense atmosphere as citizens, politicians, and journalists alike wait for the first official results under this new legal framework. For voters, the main message is clear. Stay calm, stay informed, and trust that every effort is being made to count votes accurately. Although the ruling may add extra verification steps or create delays, it is meant to protect the integrity of the election rather than disrupt it. Many experts emphasize that this moment is a reminder of how important institutions like the Supreme Court are in safeguarding democracy. The courts don't choose winners. They ensure that every vote is treated fairly and that the election process follows the law. This ruling, while dramatic, reinforces that principle. As the day unfolds, the nation remains glued to updates. Social media is buzzing with speculation, while election monitors and officials work tirelessly to implement the court's guidance. Citizens are encouraged to follow verified news sources for accurate information, while politicians adjust their strategies in real time. The story is still developing, and in the coming hours, the impact of today's Supreme Court announcement will become clearer. One thing is certain. General Election Day in the UK has turned into an historic moment where law, politics, and citizen participation intersect in a way rarely seen before. Stay tuned, because this is just the beginning. The Supreme Court has spoken, the votes are being cast, and the outcome could be influenced by this ruling in ways that may surprise everyone. Keep watching, because the story is unfolding right now, and the next updates could change the political landscape of the United Kingdom forever.